Matthew 13:7. And some fell among thorns. Mark. And some fell among thorns. The same. Luke. And some fell among thorns. Alright, it's all the same. And some fell among thorns. And the thorns sprung up. And the thorns grew up. Luke, and the thorns sprang up. Great, so I get to pick between those three. But and the thorns is the same between all three, so it's back to gray. And the thorns sprung up, sprang up, or grew up. I don't think I want to say grew up, so that sounds too human. I would rather say sprang up or sprung up. It's just a personal preference. I think I used sprung already. Some fell upon stony ground where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprung up because it had no depth of earth. So because of that, I think I should stick with sprung. Sprung up. So that's Matthew. Only Matthew sprung. All three up and choked them and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. Okay, and it yielded no fruit is important, so I will include that. But choked it or choked them? I've already chosen it instead of them in the past, so I'll stick with it here. What does Luke say? With it. Oh, look at that. Those are added. These last words are only Luke. With it. And choked it. That looks like it's the same as Mark. And choked it. Yeah. Matthew. And choked them. So and choked is all three. And choked. It is Mark and Luke. Choked it. That's the end in Luke. Mark, I already know, has more. And it yielded no fruit. Matthew and choked them. Mark, and it yielded no fruit. But other fell into good ground. Mark, and other fell on good ground. Luke, and other fell on good ground. I think I'm going to go with but other because this is the one that's contrary to the rest. Just like earlier, but when the sun came up. So it looks like it might be good, but not. Now it's something else contrary. So I'll go with the but from Matthew. But now other fell is all three. Matthew says into or on good ground. Luke on good ground. So I'll go with on. On. Now good ground is all three still. And sprang up. That's Luke. Mark says, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased. That's more in Mark. Matthew says, and brought forth fruit. And did yield fruit that sprang up. And brought forth fruit. So I could say, and the fruit came forth from Matthew and Mark. And then sprang up from Mark and Luke. And bore fruit 100-fold. Never mind. Brought forth, sprang up, and brought forth. Okay. Luke says it sprang up and bore fruit. Mark says, and did yield fruit, sprang up, and brought forth. So I think Mark has the most explanation. It did yield fruit that sprang up and increased and brought forth. Matthew, it's just brought forth fruit. So I'm just going to go with all Mark and then put in what everyone else said, because I know Mark has the most. And did yield fruit. And did yield fruit that sprang up and increased and brought forth. And I'll go with the numbers after that. So all that's from Mark, Matthew, and brought forth fruit. And brought forth. Brought forth is in Matthew, but it's much earlier. So I'll say this, and that's definitely from Matthew as well. And brought forth. Fruit is later. They're both there. Brought forth is just out of order according to Matthew. But I'll say fruit is still both. And then brought forth is also in Matthew. Luke says, and sprang up. So, and at the beginning is now all three. Sprang up is Mark and Luke. And bore fruit. And brought forth. Okay, so I'll say the fruit is all three, even though it's still out of order according to Luke. So now it's gray. But I'll say this next and is Luke. I'm saying brought instead of bore because that's in Matthew and Mark, so I'm just picking the majority witness. Now it goes into the numbers. Luke just skips right to 100-fold. Mark, some 30, some 60, some 100. Matthew, some 100, some 60, some 30. So it goes backwards in Matthew. I think it makes more sense to increase in number because you're saying some did good, some did better, some did best. When you want to make a point, when you want emphasis, you end with the best. I'm going to go with that. But all those words are there from Matthew. Some 30-fold, some 60-fold, some 100. Mark, some 30, some 60, and some 100. So it doesn't have fold in these. I'm going to go with fold, though, because, well, to be honest, I like it. Luke does say 100-fold. So at the very end, I'll say 100 is all three, and fold is 2. So starting with some 30 is in Matthew. Mark starts with and brought forth some 30. So Matthew and Mark, some 30, and then fold is only Matthew. And some 60 and some 100. That's what Mark says. Matthew, for the first time ever, skips all the ands. Some 60-fold, some 30. I think I'm going to have one and. Because there's no ands in Matthew. Some 30 and some 60 and some 100. Mark has that second 2, so I'll only put 1 at the very last one. So this first time I'll skip the and. I'll go according to how Matthew puts it without the and. Some 60 is both, and then fold is Matthew only. What does Luke say? Just goes right into 100-fold. So and is Mark only. Some is not in Luke. Some 100. Matthew. Some 100-fold. So some is Matthew and Mark. Some 100 is all three. And then orange because it's in Luke, fold. 100-fold.